everybody. Once again, it's your good buddy Spider back with another episode of your favorite new, old, getting to be old, but still kind of new podcast. This is Season 3, of course, and it's fun because it's Episode 3 of Season 3, but the overall total will be Episode 43 if you're keeping count. Now, this episode is going to be a pretty interesting episode. I don't often have guests on the show because it's difficult now that my guest software decided it doesn't want to work very well. So if I want to have a guest on the show, I have to go meet the guest in person. And, so today I didn't have to go anywhere because it's freezing outside. So I have the guest already here. You may know this person, and I'm going to introduce her in just a second. But I'm going to tell you what this episode is about first. And this episode is all about the critters and the fishes and the everything and the Atlanteans and whatever else you can find under the oceans. That's why it's called Under the Sea. So, let's talk about this. That good old sound effect there. I'm still using it. I don't know if anybody appreciates it or not, but it's still there. I bit my tongue recently, too, so if I go like and talk funny, I'm going to try my best not to. But let's try to ignore it. But anyway, for this episode, I'm bringing back a former expert. Well, she's still an expert, but she was formerly an expert on Episode 2 of Season 1. You guys might remember, that's right. It's our unicorn expert. It's Annabelle.
Hi! Today, I'm going to be talking mostly about mermaids.
See, she's well-rounded. She's above the sea. She's under the sea. We're going to have to do an in the sky sort of episode and let you talk about, I don't know, flying things like dragons and pegasi.
Yeah, and stuff like that.
Right.
I'm an expert on mythical creatures, so that's why I'm talking to you about mermaids today.
There you go. See, mermaids. Now, let's say, for just the sake of argument, let's say I had never heard of a mermaid and I had no idea what you were talking about. So let's explain to the audience, what is a mermaid?
A mermaid is a person, but they have a fish tail. So they're like part fish, part human, like just half human, half fish. That's what a mermaid is, basically.
So they just have a fishtail sticking out their backside?
Yeah, that's basically what they are. They're just humans with mermaid tails, and they also don't have feet. They don't have legs. They just have a tail.
Well, I guess they can't be dancing too much, huh?
So I've met a mermaid named Ariel. She likes dancing, but that's just because she got turned into a human, and it's a long story. We're not going to talk about that.
Well, if we talk too much about that story, we might get sued by a giant media conglomerate by the name of the letter D with some letters after it. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
But hey, anybody who wants to learn about that mermaid, there's several popular movies and TV shows from early years. So go ahead, watch it. But mermaids. So what do these mermaids do? They just hang around under the ocean? What are they doing down there?
They like hanging out with each other, and just like unicorns, they really like playing games.
Oh, do they?
Like mermaid-themed sort of games, mostly.
What kind of games would you play under the ocean?
Mostly like games like mostly the same as the games with unicorns, but mermaid. But they really like playing a ton of mermaid games. And there are like a lot of different mermaid games that mermaids play. And they're ocean. What? They really like playing tag, and so they're like chasing each other in between the seaweeds. and stuff like
Sounds like there's some mermaids in the audience trying to chime in. I don't know what's going on about that. But, so mermaids, they play these games. What do they live down there? Do they live in caves? Or what do they have down there? Where do they live?
They live in all different kinds of houses. Sometimes it's caves, sometimes it's normal houses, sometimes they just live in the water, like in holes in the ground or something like that.
Small fur-fitted people from another series that we can't talk about because we don't want to get sued.
Who knows?
Well, that's interesting. So if I just went swimming in the ocean, what are the chances that I would see a mermaid?
Well, they're very rare. Most people don't see mermaids, and that is because they mostly don't try to be seen by other people. They are mostly trying to hide from other people so they don't get caught by other people and stuff like that. They're part fish, so they're mostly trying to hide from people.
Well, I guess that makes
So
sense.
it kind of makes sense because sometimes you might be fishing and you could catch a mermaid by mistake or something like that.
That would be embarrassing.
So they're
I
like,
think, for somebody.
so they're mostly hiding so that doesn't happen.
Well, we all know that people have complicated relationships with fish that we're not going to get into here either. So, they swim around down there, they play their games, they live in holes, which is interesting.
Sometimes they live in regular houses most of the time, but sometimes they live in holes and caves or just holes in the ground. They could just live in any way.
Well, I guess that's very versatile.
Sometimes they even live in seaweed.
Now, what do they eat? They're not going to eat the other fish, are they?
Of course not. Most mermaids, at least,
Oh, okay.
like just hanging out with the fish. At least most mermaids eat seaweed.
Oh,
and stuff
okay.
like that. They eat seaweed and other plants grown underwater.
Well, that's fine. I can understand that. I like to have seaweed wrapped around rice. I like to have seaweed wrapped around rice.
Oh yeah, sushi. Mermaids have a lot of sushi made out of seaweed and other plants that grow underwater.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that would make sense. It's already down there.
There are other kinds of plants that grow underwater, so they use that as the filling. And I don't know what they'd use to substitute the rice, but otherwise they are pretty good.
Well, rice
sushi.
grows in water.
So,
Rice paddies are in water-covered fields, so maybe they sneak up and they snag some extra rice and run off with it, which would make them thieves, unfortunately.
well, snag some extra rice and swim off with it. Remember, they don't have legs.
Yeah. Well, they could, if they're going to go to all that trouble, since it grows in water, they could probably just grow rice themselves,
Yeah.
so they could probably have rice.
Yeah, they can have rice. They just make sushi out of all kinds of plants that can grow underwater, mostly seaweed and rice, because they're convenient. But there are other kinds of plants that they can grow underwater, which I don't know a whole lot about the plants they grow, but I know a lot about mermaids themselves.
Well, that would make sense, because you'd have to have something that would be good cold, because you can't make a fire underwater. So I wouldn't think they'd have many ways to heat up any food.
Yeah, they just have to make food cold because they can't make fires.
The studio audience is trying to throw facts in the air at us again.
Mermaids, we're busy talking about you.
Just like the unicorns. The unicorns were interrupting us last time when we talked to them, weren't we?
Yeah, they were clip-clopping and while we were talking about unicorns.
Clip-clopping. Yep, somebody was clip-clop, clip-clopping. So mermaids, if they're going to be under the ocean, they're going to have to coexist with a lot of other creatures, right?
Yeah, they live with all kinds of fish and other creatures that live underwater.
So, what do you know about fish too? Do you know about other underwater creatures?
Yeah, I know a lot about other kinds of underwater creatures, like sharks. I know a lot about sharks.
Well, sharks are often misunderstood around here. I think you should
Yeah.
probably tell us some things about sharks so that people don't misunderstand. What's the deal with sharks?
Like sharks. Now here's a fact that most people don't understand. Sharks will only attack people if the people are in their territory or things like that. because most of the time it's just the people going into the sharks' territory, not the sharks going into the people's territory. And one of our audience members really likes sharks, and their favorite shark is called the tasseled wobbegong.
My goodness, that's a mouthful of a name for a shark.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's a thing.
Well, I mean, that makes perfect sense because sharks are millions and millions and millions of years old as a species, right? And people are less millions and millions and millions years old as a species. So the sharks were there first, right?
Yeah, they were there at the time of the dinosaurs, so they were there first before.
So it is kind of their ocean first, right?
Yeah, it's more of their ocean than the people's ocean.
That makes sense to me. So you heard it here, folks. If you're angry at sharks for being in your beaches, just remember they were there first.
It's their beaches. They were there before you. Sharks are much older than you.
We'll see. There you go. All right. And that's from an expert, so you can trust an expert.
I'm an underwater expert.
Now, what sea creatures do you think are the most likely to be friends with a mermaid?
Oh, well, all kinds of fish. Mermaids are mostly friends with all kinds of fish. Sometimes sharks. Sharks are occasionally best friends with mermaids. Just most of the time, the mermaids tend to stay away from sharks so they don't disturb them. But sometimes sharks can be friends with mermaids. And, sometimes they're, friends with rays, the mermaids are. And occasionally a jellyfish or two. They're all kinds of underwater creatures that can be friends with mermaids. Sometimes even an octopus.
What about a blobfish with that big unhappy face going, Is that going to be friends with a mermaid?
I don't know. I've never seen a mermaid being friends with a blobfish, but they're probably going to be friends with them.
Well, somebody has to with a face like that. But, I had something else I was going to say about mermaids. I was going to ask you about. Oh yeah, there's rumors. You gotta address some rumors. There's rumors that mermaids have particular singing voices, and they use those voices for nefarious things. They lure people out and crash their boats. Do you think that's true?
Well, sometimes. I actually have a set of books about mermaids, and in those books, there's some mermaids that do that. There's a mermaid named Shona who wants to be like one of those mermaids.
Oh my gosh. So, are there more of them than the other mermaids? Should we be worried about that? Is that something that you take a boat out for a lake trip and then you gotta worry about a mermaid crashing it?
No, lately humans and mermaids have become more friendly with each other, so you won't usually find a mermaid like that unless you're really near the territory of mermaids and stuff like that.
Well, okay, that's good. I don't want to be out there singing I'm on a boat with my homies and then a mermaid joins in and then we all crash on an island somewhere.
Yeah, never sing when you're out on the ocean, because then a mermaid might be like, hey, I want to join in with your singing, and then accidentally crash you.
And what about a pirate? Pirates sing all the time. They sing pirate songs, right?
Oh, they must be in real danger of mermaids, because mermaids are, very amused by singing, and they always want to join in if they hear somebody singing, so it's pretty dangerous for pirates out there.
Well, these days especially. Pirate days are kind of over with. Pirates should hang out in the taverns on the land and tell their old pirate stories. And occasionally walk around with their special day going, "Arr."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, sometimes.
So, mermaids. Singing voices. Now, you are a fan of ocean simulators, am I right?
Yeah.
Now, we don't have any mermaids in these ocean simulators, but what do we have in these ocean simulators? What do you do?
Well, there's like my first ocean simulator is pretty simple. It just has like normal fish, and you kind of make friends with a great white shark. So it's kind of complicated, and it also sounds kind of dangerous, but it's all right. You become friends in the end.
Well, there
And-
you go.
And in another one, there are actually 2 games of this. In another one, you're on an alien planet and there are a bunch of alien fish. I just recently have finished this one, actually. The first one. I haven't quite finished it. I finished like the main story. I just haven't like escaped the alien planet. But there are like all these kinds of alien fish around here.
Are there alien mermaids?
No, there aren't any
No?
mermaids
Okay.
there. Just weird fish.
Okay. Because I'd be worried. I'd be like, if mermaids had found out how to travel space, and you had space mermaids, then you might have a big problem. Because then they'd be singing, and you'd hear it in your spaceship, and you'd crash your spaceship.
Yeah, there aren't any space mermaids. Well, not that I know of, and I hope there aren't, because spaceships crash into asteroids, blow up, get stuck in space.
Well,
you
you
get
know,
stuck in space because
we
of
have
the
experience
mermaids.
with spaceships and goats, and we know how that goes. But, so yeah, mermaids, sharks. Now, you have had first-hand experience in real life with some fish, haven't you?
Yeah. Shh. Let me tell you something. I had a weird dream about space goats yesterday.
Oh, well, we'll get to that after the show. That's behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But, you went to an aquarium not too long ago, at the end of the summer, right? In the early fall, or late fall, or somewhere in there. I don't know what season it was. Everything runs together. It's cold.
It was in fall. It was in early fall in September. On like September, I think it was like the 17th or 15th.
Something like that. All right,
Yes.
so you went
I
to
think
an
it was on
aquarium.
17th. Yeah, we did. On like it was on 17th we left for a trip, and then on like I'm pretty sure it was like on the 19th we went to the aquarium after having breakfast at a delicious restaurant. It was very good. Then we went to an aquarium, and I got to see all kinds of sea creatures.
Now, I heard from a reliable source that you managed to pet some of these creatures.
I did. I got to pet some rays and a jellyfish.
And you didn't get zapped by the jellyfish?
I did, and I pet the top of it, not its
Oh, okay.
tentacles.
That
Don't
makes
pet the tentacles, then you'd get zapped, but you can pet the top of it.
Well, we all know that bit of wisdom from that movie about the fish trying to find that other fish that we're also not going to talk about.
Yeah,
because it's,
yeah,
once again, we don't want to get sued.
yeah, we're not going to talk about that either. There's so many things we're just not going to
Well,
talk
yeah,
about.
it's brand placement. We got to be careful. We
Yeah,
can't
we're
just name
not.
off this stuff. We're getting in trouble.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it.
Now, you have a book, and we were going to read it, but we couldn't find it. So maybe we'll read it on another episode as a special book reading episode.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Now, in this book, it explains, or tries to explain, how you're supposed to try to catch a mermaid, but they're not successful, are they?
They're not. Just like in the unicorn version, they're not successful.
So you think that's a lesson for people, not to go out and try to catch mermaids?
Yeah, especially in like normal kind of catching ways. Because you don't want to accidentally catch a mermaid with your fishing rod. That would be like kind of embarrassing.
Ooh, I think they'd be mad.
They'd be
I
mad.
can imagine they'd be a little
Yeah,
bit mad at
they'd
that. They
be-
might grab the
they'd-
fishing pole and yank you into the water, and then you'd be in
Yeah,
trouble.
they'd be really mad if you were fishing and you accidentally caught a mermaid. Like, sometimes people would have probably even caught mermaids in nets by accident, but if you were to catch it with your fishing rod, the mermaids would be real angry. They'd drag you into the water because they'd be super mad.
I've seen movies with mermaids getting caught in nets. I've seen movies. But the mermaid gets away at the end, I think.
Of course, mermaids always get away. You can't catch a mermaid. That's the whole lesson that the book is trying to teach you. You shouldn't try catching a mermaid because you'll fail. They do make friends with the mermaid at the end, though.
Well, I guess you'd have to. You got all that effort to meet one, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right. Well, I think that's about as much as we can learn for now. I'm sure there's going to be more in the future. But I think that brings us to the end of our mermaid adventure today. So I want to say thank you once again.
Wait, I didn't talk too much about other sea creatures.
Oh, okay. Well, you can go on about something else. We can fill up about 10 more minutes of time here.
Great, because I don't want to end it just now. That would be, like, way too short.
See, she's running my own show. It's like the Annabelle show now.
No, it isn't. This was going to be way shorter than unicorns. I don't want that. I want it to be at least as long. So, like, water dragons.
Water
That's the next
dragons.
thing I'm going to talk about. Water
That
dragons.
sounds fearsome. All right. Well, what do you know about? Are they big? Are they huge?
They're huge. There are all kinds of water dragons.
Oh my gosh.
Things just like water unicorns. Some of them are made of water. Some of them just live in water. Some of them have water powers.
Some of them can just swim really well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that one that we still can't talk about because, again, don't want to get sued.
Again,
You guys
we
will know what
can't
we're
talk
talking
about
about, though. You know, a swimming dragon that swims really good. You guys know.
I don't know. But
All right. Anyway, water dragons.
the water dragons can also be found in all kinds of oceans. They can also be found in a lot of lakes. They're
Lakes even, too?
Yeah, they're particularly found mostly in lakes, but sometimes in the oceans. Mostly it's just mermaids in the oceans, but mostly in lakes, you've got water dragons.
Now, I have been to the lake up north, which for us, we're here in Ohio, of course, so we're right on the shores of Lake Erie. And I haven't seen a water dragon in Lake Erie. I've seen some people on the beaches that could be dragon-like, but I've never seen any water dragons.
There are dragons that often hide deep down in the lakes, but some people have claimed to spot them. Mermaids also live in Lake Erie and the other Great Lakes as their summer homes on summer vacation.
Oh, well, that was news to me. I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all.
They do!
Now I'm gonna take my binoculars when I go to the lake next time. I'm gonna keep an eye out.
You're gonna take my binoculars.
Yeah,
You
I'll
don't
probably
have
take
any
those.
binoculars. But yeah, keep an eye out next time you're near the beach or the ocean for a water dragon or maybe even a mermaid.
So, if you're saying water dragons can live in lakes, what are the chances? And this is a stretch here. I'm making a logic leap here. What are the chances that the Loch Ness Monster is actually a water dragon?
It is.
You say it is?
It's a water dragon
Oh my
that
gosh.
lives in the lake there in Scotland, and it just kind of hangs out there most of the time. Some people have spotted it sometimes, but most of the time it's just there. It's a gigantic water dragon.
Well, you see, there you guys go. You can stop looking. Annabelle told you what it is.
That's what water dragons look like. If you ever spot more than of those things in the future, you know what they are. They're water dragons.
Alright, mystery solved. You guys can all put away your sonar and your boats and just enjoy the lake now. Or the loch, as they would say.
Yeah, just whatever it's called. Just enjoy it.
Now, what do you think about the possibility of giant sea creatures still existing in the ocean? Like, let's say, a megalodon.
A megalodon could still exist in the ocean, just very, very deep in the water. And, like I said, water dragons, they're gigantic sea creatures. They still live there as well. They're also pretty ancient.
What if something like that could be there, and a giant squid can be down there, what about a giant mermaid? Like a mega mermaid?
A giant mermaid? I've never heard of a giant mermaid before, but I'll have to keep an eye out for a gigantic one.
I guess it could be possible. A mega mermaid.
A mega mermaid.
It'd be like the Bigfoot of the mermaid world, right?
Yeah, the Bigfoot of the mermaid world. It would be like that, except it would be Big Fin. Mermaids don't have feet. It would just be Big Fin.
Big Fin.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That does make sense. I wish I'd have thought about that, because that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But you're the expert, so obviously I wouldn't know. See, I'm learning some things. This show is learning show. Everybody out there is going to learn
it's
things.
kind of educational.
That's right. This is the whole point. So, Big Fin. I'm going to be on that Big Fin for a little while. I'm going to have to talk about that on my other show. Big Fin. See, that's going to keep me up at night now. I'm going to be wondering. I'm going to be like, oh, that ocean, Big Fin, ocean, Big Fin. And I'm wondering in my head what it would look like. Instead of fur, it would have, like, sea grasses and mosses and things.
No, it would have gigantic. It would have scales all over its body. It would have a gigantic fin on its tail. It would be huge. It would be bigger than one of those gigantic boats. It would be bigger than a pirate ship, even. It would be huge.
Oh my gosh, Big Fin.
I shouldn't have put that idea into your head.
It's there
now.
now.
Now you're gonna have to mention it on your whole
It's not
other
going
show.
away now.
On your whole other show, just because of a little idea I had.
It's not going anywhere now. So where would somebody learn more about mermaids that are not Big Fin? Where, like, if somebody wanted to read up on mermaids, do they just pick up some books from the bookstore?
They'd have to, like, specially look for mermaid books, probably, because I don't think mermaid books are that easy to find.
Oh, okay. So you can't just, like, go on a big shopping website that we won't talk about because we don't want to get sued and order a bunch of these books, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So you heard that. You got to go to your nearest big shopping website.
Yeah.
And
Big
then
shopping
you can-
website that we don't talk about.
Right.
Any big shopping website. We just don't talk about it.
That's right. We don't talk about it. So,
This isn't the episode where we have, like, the brick things. It's not that episode. It's not. We're not talking about, like, brands like that.
yeah, we're not doing that.
We're talking about underwater creatures like Big Fin.
Big Fin. We're gonna be stuck on that Big Fin a while now. Like this is the stuff that keeps me up at night. I'm gonna be thinking about it. I'm gonna be thinking about how it would work. Big Fin. I'm gonna be seeing it in my head.
You know where Big Fin lives? In the Lake Erie.
You know, Lake Erie is a Big Fin kind of area. I would imagine.
you're
I think
go-
I've seen some people who look like a Big Fin on land sometimes.
You're going to see Big Fin the merman over there.
Big Fin and water dragons on land is what sometimes you see.
Big Fin the merman just wild.
All right, we got a few seconds left. What else do you want to say before we get to the end, before we're at our half hour?
Well, I want to say that I really love mermaids, especially the idea of Big Fin, and I love water dragons, and I also really like sharks.
Sharks. I almost forgot to ask. You have a special relationship with sharks right now, don't you?
Yeah, I wish I hadn't taken up so much of that episode talking about Big Fin.
We'll
that
talk
we
about
can
the
talk
sharks.
more
We can
about
talk about that part. Like, what are you able to do with sharks right now?
Well, I've like only seen sharks in person once, and it was at like the aquarium. But we're going to see more sharks next time we go to the next aquarium in like a different state.
Now, what do you have on your tablet that's a brand that we can't talk about because we don't want to get sued?
It's a brand that helps you track animals, and again, we don't want to get sued.
Right.
So many things we don't want to get sued for.
But
and
it's an app. It's like an app that lets you track the animals.
Yeah, you help track the animals. And there are sharks there. There's also penguins, polar bears, lions, and elephants. But the penguins and the sharks are like only the only underwater creatures we have there. Oh, sea turtles. Yeah, there's sea turtles as well.
So you can use an app. You got to look it up yourself.
And you get lions, polar bears, penguins, and sharks, sea turtles, elephants. And I believe there's even like giraffes and dolphins.
Oh my gosh.
Giraffes and dolphins.
Well, that's quite a bit. That's pretty interesting. So you can do that, and you can track their migrations and everything.
Yeah, you can. Also,
Well,
I don't know
helpful.
what that mermaid audience. I don't know what she said, but we can't pay attention to her right now. She's in the audience.
Studio audience is rowdy tonight. But yeah, they go to the app and then they follow the directions and then they'll figure it out, and it's something you gotta do stuff for. You can't just like track whatever you want willy nilly.
Yeah, all that mermaid was saying was that you need to buy a bracelet.
All right, okay, so that's good then. Well, we're now past our half-hour mark, so we're at our full episode. So I want to thank my guest, the esteemed mythical creature expert by the name of Annabelle. And I'm sure she'll be back again. We gotta do a Sky episode now.
Yeah, next time we need to do an episode called In the Sky later in season 3.
See, now I'm thinking, though, I was thinking, what if there was an air Bigfoot? But I was thinking of Big Fin, so now I was thinking of Air Fin. And that doesn't make any sense, does it?
Yeah, it sure doesn't. A mermaid who can fly? What would a mermaid who could fly be called? Airfin?
Airfin. Well, that's enough of that. That's us being silly now.
Yeah.
But
yeah, next time we'll talk about even more dragons, maybe even a Pegasus or something like that. And
there you go,
and
guys.
even all kinds of birds. Just we'll see you again on the next episode on air creatures.
absolutely.
Yeah, just wait a little bit. Also, just so you know, this was the sequel to episode Unicorns. It was the sequel to it.
She's been prepping for this for a while. She kept telling me she had to have this sequel during this season, and if I'd have forgotten, I'd have been in trouble. I'd never hear the end of it.
I've been planning the entire year time I've been partially on this show. And it's kind of funny that it's the sequel, actually, because Unicorns went right after a sequel. So that's kind of funny.
A lot of good coincidences. Well, that's it for us. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Don't forget to tune in next week for another new episode of Let's Talk About This.